Welcome back.
Happy 1st Century 21 Beggins.
What's up?
How you doing, Jeff Beggins? Mike Puma going live to you guys today.
From both channels.
That's right, B3 channel.
Yeah, something different, right? We got more agents on with B3 and consumers on with Central 21 Beggins.
So the topic today is extremely important about what's going on in the world right now. We called it, you got to keep them separated. Hey guys, Jeff Beggins. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being on our YouTube channel. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button, and then when you do, hit the get notifications, because we post content. You're going to see stuff every day coming out to you, and I want to make sure you get notified when it's there so you can watch it. So thanks again for being here. Really appreciate it. I'm over here in the Tampa office today, and we had a great sales meeting with the team here. And one of the things that came up this morning was one of the agents was talking about a seller that she had worked with didn't choose her and listed with another office, and which is part of life is what it is. And so we dug a little deeper into that whole world, and she got the feedback, which we always do, and say what happened there. And what ended up happening was the agent who came in and actually got the listing said, hire me because I've got a list of buyers, but I think we're going to buy your house.
Sounds good.
Right? And so the seller said, oh, cool, right? Mm-hmm. And then hired that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then so it kind of spurred on an entire conversation inside the office this morning. We said, okay, wait a second. So hence the title of Keeping Separated. So let's run down that path for just a couple minutes. So if, Mike, I'll ask you to be the potential seller client.
Okay.
And I'm going to go to you and say, let's get your house on the market, let's list it. And everyone says, let's list your home, right? That's just a personal pet peeve of mine. Listing is one little tiny sliver of a big checklist of what happens when you actually put a property on the market, right?
Yeah.
So, but the general public calls it listing, so we'll just kind of use that. So list with me, Mike, I've got this list of buyers, and I think I can get your property sold.
Yeah.
Right, so that's what you hear, and you're like, that's pretty cool. So I said, really, is it? Because let's talk about what that really does for you. Because if you were to hire that person, which this particular seller did, what does that really do? So let's dig deeper, because I'm going to unpeel this onion for everybody who's watching here. Because if you hired that agent, which you did, and that buyer had a buyer, which they may or may not, what are the potential challenges there? Because there's two things, and this is why the title is what it is. There's two choices that need to be made that are being lumped in right now into one decision.
Right.
And it's who are you going to hire to represent and protect, and what are you going to sell it for?
Yeah.
So we were chatting earlier about going outside the industry for a second, and let's say I got a speeding ticket. Yeah. Right? And I needed to go hire an attorney to go do that. And I went and interviewed a few different attorneys. And one of the attorneys is a rock star, Jedi, ninja, badass, big, serious attorney. Yeah. And I just felt comfortable that he was going to have my back and get my fine reduced as much as possible. Right. And then another attorney says, hire me for $59, right?
Yeah, which is an option.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. They're out there.
So what a lot of people don't think about is the actual differences here. So there's two decisions that need to be made. Who am I going to hire who's going to have my back, protect me, that I can trust, right? And that's number one. And then implicit in that decision is who's going to negotiate on my behalf in the best interest to have me pay, in this case, as little as possible, right? Or reduce my fine down to whatever it may be, versus somebody else who just walks around. Now, there's two different schools of thought about this one. And there's a whole legal industry that's built around low cost. Oh, yeah. Right? The ticket clinic and those type of people, it's $99, I'll get you this, that, and the other. Yeah. And then you have the higher profile attorneys that do the same thing. Yeah. Right? So it's different. So in this industry, what's interesting right now is everything's kind of lumped in. So sellers view representation and pricing in one big muddy ball. Where I think the differences are completely different.
Yeah, but I think part of that is it's natural consumer behavior, right? So just in general, in your day-to-day life, the average consumer, when they go to buy or sell anything, it's all about price, right? I want the most money when I'm selling something, typically, right? But it's price focused, and what is it going to cost me to sell it, right? Or what is it going to cost me to buy what I want? And that's just where your mind goes. You lead with that in almost anything that you buy or sell on a day-to-day basis. Where I think, it's the difficulty for most consumers is separating that and taking a step back and realizing this is different, right? This is something you're going to do once, twice, 3, 4 times for most people in their lifetime.
Right.
And this is one of the largest, if not the largest, financial transaction of their life. They cannot treat this as if they're going to buy a shirt at a store or milk or cereal or anything else. This has to be different. And I think for a lot of us, even though we probably don't even realize we're doing it, we don't, right? We're walking right, it'd be like walking right into a store and saying, what's that cost, before you even know if you like it or not. Right? And that's a problem.
And it's not really known the differences in this business. And one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing and putting what we're putting out there content-wise is to, in our opinion, elevate the vibe of what's going on inside the industry. Because from a consumer perspective, it's not known, and it's not the consumer's job to know.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of the differences inside of the decisions. Now, I'm not saying anything's right or wrong. I'm just saying be informed about the decisions that you make.
Yeah, it's our job to educate them. And it's our job to hold other agents and our agents accountable to meet the higher level that should be getting served.
So what we talked about this morning with Marie and the example that she brought up on this deal was this. I said, okay, so if you're the seller, I'm going to say, look, yes, I'm happy that person has a list of buyers. That's fantastic, right? And that may be a good thing for you. If it is, great, take it. Let me explain to you just kind of the other side of that decision so you can make an informed decision. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Right, so if you were to hire that agent from this other company, is that agent going to be allowed to represent you at all? And very important question to ask. Now, you may say, watching, well, yeah, he's got the buyer. He'll put the deal together.
Yeah,
that's fine.
He's going to bring a buyer for me. That's awesome.
But the key question is, how does he represent you, and does he represent you, and in which way if he brings you a buyer?
Well, legally he can't.
This is important, right? Yep. So most people say it's screwed. I don't care. He's got a buyer and my house is sold.
Yep.
But should you care, or should you at least be educated about the differences? Is my point on this conversation.
Well, absolutely, because what most consumers don't realize, and I'm sure most of the agents, unless they're able to offer single agency, aren't talking about, is the fact that if he brings a buyer, right? And his firm represents both the buyer now and me as the seller, he cannot negotiate on my behalf. He can't. If he brings me an offer, he's just bringing me an offer, right? Now, how do I know as a seller if it's good or not, right? Is it valid? Should I negotiate? Should I go down? Should I go up? I'm going to lean on him because he's the expert, right? It's why I hired him to represent me. The only problem is he doesn't represent me anymore, and he cannot legally negotiate on my behalf.
Who does he represent?
No one represents the transaction, so he's got to stay even keel.
So let's walk this through, because I want to really drive this point. So you hire Suzy Smith, I use that name all the time, from Suzy Smith Real Estate, and she says, hire me to list your home with me. I've got these buyers. And you say, okay, cool, sign the listing agreement. And then all of a sudden I say, here's an offer. Okay. Now, let's walk step by step. This is actually an offer right here in my hand. Here is an offer from Bob Buyer. So when I hand that to you, if I'm Suzy Smith and you're my listing and you're my buyer, who do I represent, or what do I represent? That piece of paper. Now, I could know that Bob Buyer is willing to pay $30,000 more than this piece of paper says, but I can't tell you. Think about that for a second. That's pretty difficult, and that's a pretty simple deal. And then you counter back, and I know that you'll take less than that counter. I can't tell them. So nobody's getting.
You can't work to the detriment of either party.
So this is, in essence, I like the analogy. If you're going to go through a divorce, right? How would you feel about having the same attorney working for you and for your wife? Right. Normally, that doesn't really work out very well because somebody has to represent the deal. So then we dug a little deeper into the transaction and said, okay, so if you're a seller and you're thinking about who you should hire, I want to keep them separated. I want the conversation difference to be, let's talk about representation first, protection first, marketing, strategy, the business, right?
Yeah.
Once that decision is made, whether or not you want to hire us to represent your best interests and take care of you, the secondary conversation is price.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's a whole different, and this is my point. Price negotiation is irrelevant if I can't represent you.
Right.
Because even if I get a weaker offer, I can't beat anybody up on price because I don't really represent you.
Yeah.
So most people don't think that way, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. So here's a couple of tidbits for the agent community that's watching and the consumer market that's watching here too, is this. So for example, if I now, let's say you made the decision to hire Jeff Beggins to represent you. Yeah. And an offer comes in from Coldwell Banker, Remax, Coldwell, it doesn't matter, not us. Right? Yeah. So now I have this hat on that says single agency, which is representation, which basically makes me the Jedi Master Ninja ass-kicking machine to protect you 100% on your behalf.
Yep.
Truly, I can be to the detriment of the other party because I'm working for you.
Yeah.
So how do I do that? But Jeff, isn't it the same? You just kind of fill in the blank papers and it's done. It's just a transaction. It's not that hard. Well, I beg to differ on that. And this is the point that if I were to be talking to you when you're deciding who you should hire to sell your house, these are some of the points I will talk about. For example, if an offer came in on your house and I'm your agent and representing about a company, not us, here's a couple tidbits of how I would beat them up. Okay? For example, the first thing in the contract is my weapon, is my tool. So everything I'm allowed to do or not allowed to do is in this pages, right? This is a 12-page document full of a bunch of stuff.
Yep. Okay? That probably very few people actually fully read or understand.
Yeah, but this gives me the authority to do a lot of things if I understand how I'm doing it the right way. And it depends on how I represent you to how I do things. So for example, offer comes in. First thing I'm going to do is look at it and read it, make sure it was filled out properly. And let's say we had your house on the market for $1.5 million. And even if the offer comes in at $1.5 million, we might be excited for a second, but I'm going to say, hold your enthusiasm for a moment. Let's do some analysis here. Because I represent you, let's make sure this is the right thing. So I read through and I say, okay, how are they paying for this property? Are they paying cash? Nope, it's contingent upon paying financing. What kind of financing are they getting? And there's a lot of options here on this piece of paper, right? And a lot of them have different paths they take. What type of financing? When is that financing due? How much time do they have to apply for their financing? Right. What kind of interest rate are they getting? What kind is it conventional? Is it FHA? Is it a VA? Is it adjustable? Is it fixed? Is it a combination? Is it purchase money mortgage? You want seller financing? Is it a hard money lender? Right? And how long do they have to do certain things? So this structures my representation to you. And I say, is there a pre-approval letter? Right? If it's cash, great. I love cash, but where's the money? Yeah. Who's their banker? I want to call them these things. So I'm going to call up the lender. Let's say the offer comes in and it's accompanied by a letter from Chase. Yep. Right? And Suzy Johnson is the personal banker at Chase. And if that's a good agent to even go this far. So let's say the offers mostly come in a lot of times with nothing. It says contingent upon financing and that's it. And very rarely do they actually come across with a pre-approval letter that's real. Yeah. So we'll get a half-ass one many times that says, Chase says you're pre-qualified for a loan, here you go. So if you're my client, I'm going to say, Mike, we're not going to take this thing off the market yet. Let me do some exploration to figure out what's going on. So I should do my job if I'm representing you right. And I'm going to call this banker over at Chase and I'm going to say, hey, look, buyer Bobby and Mary have put you down as a loan officer for this loan on 123 Oak Street. Here's my questions for you. Have you met with them? Have they really made application? Have they paid you an application fee? Have you pulled their credit? Right? Have you seen their pay stubs? What's going on with their tax returns? What do you have? And how solid are you with the buying ability of this client? Yep. Because I need to go to you as my seller and say, dude, this market's hot right now. We're getting showings all over the place. These guys aren't committed enough yet for me to recommend that you take your property off the market. It looks good and it's shiny, but it's worthless at this stage, right? Yeah. And then I'm going to also see how much money they're putting down in escrow, for example. And so at $1.5 million, let's talk about that for a second. A lot of offers come over and there's $500 in escrow, $1,000 in escrow, a couple grand in escrow. May not seem like a lot, but it's huge. It's important. Because if they're going to go for their financing, and I'm going to look at this Chase pre-approval, and if I have one, and I'm going to see how are you getting? Is it 70% financing, 80% financing? So if it's 80% financing, that means it's 20% not.
Mm-hmm.
So where's that 20% coming from?
It's
cash. Right? So if that's the case, where is your cash? Is it proper for me to ask these questions on behalf of you to make sure that we're not wasting time and energy on the potential buyer? So you're telling me you've got 300 grand in cash that you're putting down. Where is that money sitting right now? Prove it to me. Right? Prove it to us. I'm protecting you in this process and I'm educating you. So I mean, this is just the first couple lines.
Now, so let's back up though, because you're representing me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't this be something, regardless of who I hire, can't any agent do what you're talking about doing?
They could, they should, but unfortunately they don't.
Can they? Well, let me
In
rephrase it a different way. If I hire someone from Joe Blow Realty who does not offer single agency, right? Yeah. So whether they're representing me as the seller and the buyer doesn't matter. They still are only representing that piece of paper. Mm-hmm. Can they legally call and ask all these details and work and find out all these other details about the other side, and then use it as leverage?
The key is, can you use it as leverage, right? So the contract gives them all the rights to do the things I'm doing. Now, less than 0.5% of people really do. Yeah. I'm just saying, when I deliver that highest level, these are the type of things you're going to want to do. Right? Because I'm not really doing anything to the detriment of that other side. Yeah. I'm forcing their feet to the fire.
But you knowing all that information is only half the battle, right? If you want to then go back and say, hey, I talked to them, this offer is weak, we're not going to take it, we need more. And
now now you're taking the next step.
Yeah, now, so knowing that they're doing it is different from being able to actually do anything with it.
Because if I get the offer over and it's got $5,000 in escrow, right, for me to ask them for, here's what I want, if you are my client, this is a $1.5 million house and I got a $5,000 escrow deposit, I'm going to dig in and I'm going to find your money. Right? I'm going to make sure it's right, and I'm going to counter back, and I'm going to take $150,000 of escrow and I'm going to put it down. Now, whose detriment is that towards?
Right? The other side.
So why would I do that? Because I have loyalty now. There's four things: full disclosure, obedience, loyalty, and confidentiality. So my loyalty just switched, right? It's not to them at all anymore. It hasn't ever been, but now I'm going to start working. And so I'm going to take things from them. I'm physically taking $145,000 more out of their bank account, putting into one on your behalf towards this purchase. Right? Because my obedience, my loyalty, all of my confidentiality, everything that I know is completely to you and not to them. On that aspect. That's huge.
For the consumers watching, if your agent does not offer single agency, which is a number one question you need to ask when someone is sitting across from you, is how are you representing me? Do you offer single agency? Whether you fully understand single agency or not is a question that needs to come out of your mouth, because if the answer is no, then they cannot work to the detriment of the other side.
Let's go to pricing, for example, just to drive your point home here for a second. So it's listed at $1.5 million, right? And the offer comes in at $1.45 million. Interesting dilemma, I sit in as an agent, because if I say, man, Mike, we can get easy $1.5 million. I got 3 other showings. I got people calling me left and right. I think we can get more. Let's counter back at $1.5 million. I can say that because I represent you, and my loyalty is now to you. If I'm a transaction broker, I can't do that.
I mean, you could, but you'd be breaking the law. Be illegal.
Because where's my loyalty? I'm trying to get $50,000 more out of the other side.
You're then working to the detriment of the other side.
For your behavior, on your behalf, with the loyalty.
And unless you're a single agent, you cannot do that.
Because now transaction, I'm not going to beat it up totally, because you still have limited confidentiality. It's not a totally crappy level. It's just not the highest level. And to your point, if you're only doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 transactions in your life,
Why
Might as well
would
get
you not?
somebody good.
Yeah.
But let's dig into that point for a little. Why would you do that? Because you want somebody who's going to, you feel, fight for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like literally, figuratively, financially, fight for you to have your exposure be as little as humanly possible because they have the
100%.
experience,
Yep.
the knowledge, the know-how, and the grit,
Right.
to go to the mat for you.
But this is different, right? I mean, we're selling a house.
You're just selling the
right?
largest financial transaction in your life. It's no big deal.
It's on the same.
You guys see the point here that we're talking about right now is there is no difference. That's why you got to keep them separated. Now, the example that we're talking about right now, once I find that attorney in this example that I totally believe has the track record, the grit, the experience, the guts, whatever you want to call it, to be the guy that I feel comfortable with that will have my back, that's the decision that needs to be made. Now, the secondary decision is what do you think the outcome will be? True?
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, that might come up in a conversation, but that's not the reason for my hire. The reason for my hire is the experience, the ability, and the grit, and the power, right?
Yes.
Not necessarily not just the power, maybe the force when needed, but the power to get things done for me. Now, why real estate is clouded and muddy, I don't know, but it is. Because how do a lot of people choose the agents that they're working with?
Well, I think one of the big clouds is the fact that when people think of an attorney or a doctor, right, which is also something that most people think about price or what it's going to cost them secondary, because if you're going to have a major surgery, you're not going in being like, hey, can I get this surgery for 10% less?
Who's the cheapest brain surgeon I can find?
No, you're gonna make sure you get the best, right?
The one Google search never done.
Right, yeah. I'm gonna do it just to see what comes up. You're not gonna do that, but I think partially it's because in the back of your mind you're thinking they've gone to school for many years, are educated, right? These are true professionals. And it's our fault as the real estate community of why they don't view it this way. But the reality is, I think real estate in general has gotten a bad connotation because while someone is dealing, which is scary on the consumer side, which is why you need to ask these questions even more so, is the reality is it's not super difficult to get your license. It's why so many people have it. For a few grand and a few hours of work, what is it, less than 40 hours,
63 hours.
Or 60, less than 70 hours of work, right, and a test, and you can now legally handle the largest financial transaction of someone's life. So because of that, there's been this connotation that we just naturally can't be trusted as being the expert, and we shouldn't be. But what the flip side of that is, the consumers know that, which is why they commoditize it in their brain, but at the same time, they know that we're not all the same, but they treat it the same. I don't think
the general selling and buying public really discern the difference between agents. They think real estate agents are real estate agents, real estate brokers are real estate brokers. Some are cheaper, right? Some are more expensive, but they all list the homes, right? So there's not, and rightfully so. You guys, from the consumer standpoint, it's not your job to really know the difference.
No, we should be telling you.
I wouldn't know. I don't even know if there is. I don't know if there's a difference in doctorhood, right? Maybe there's a level of Guatemalan doctorhood that's
for sure.
Totally different than
and
Canadian
they're
doctorhood.
Definitely. Same thing with law school. Do you want someone who went to a law school in some other country, or do you want someone who went to Harvard? Right. I mean, there's a difference in every profession. The difference there is, I think it's publicized a little bit more and talked about a little bit more.
That's right.
And attorneys probably do a better job of letting you know because they advertise.
But here's the difference there, and this is I'll argue this point. I don't care what attorney you hire, you still have attorney-client privilege, right?
Yeah, they're still representing you.
Yeah,
they're not representing both sides.
In this industry, I think it's assumed that there's something similar to that in there.
And there's not.
That if I hire you, you've got my back.
Yes.
Right? And most people don't understand that. And it's okay as long as you know what you're getting. But for you to not know what you're getting and bring in the assumption that everything's the same is the big difference.
It would be like you sitting in front of an attorney and off the bat, the way this industry works, it would translating over to there, it'd be like off the bat sitting in front of an attorney, and when you first meet, that attorney is actually representing you and the other side at the same time, right? Yep. And he's going to do that through the whole thing unless you say, hey, who do you represent?
Great
and
point.
they say, oh, I represent both sides. Or, well, I offer both. I can represent you in the other side, or you can hire me as a single agency. Yeah, I can do it in a limited way and represent both sides. Or I can represent you as my client, and then I'm only representing you, right?
Right.
Now, with an attorney, you don't have to ask that question because it's actually reverse. It's illegal for them to work both sides, right?
Right. We don't know that industry.
They have conflict of interest.
Correct.
But with us, they do not.
That's right.
And so when you sit down in front of brokerage, including us, when we first meet, we are naturally, by the state of Florida, we are considered to be a transaction brokerage. Now, first conversation with us is going to be, hey, by the way, we're going to elevate you to single
But we
agency.
don't have to even have that conversation. That's in this industry. It's if I met you watching at Publix to go while I'm shopping and you see Century 21, you're like, oh, in real estate, yeah, you want to show a house, you want to go buy a house, yeah, cool, let's meet on Friday. We never have to have the conversation.
Right, they don't have to tell you
who's representing who and how.
Right, which is why it is so important that you're asking the right questions as the consumer.
Because most consumers assume that someone's going to have their back. Now, my point on that is there's so many intricacies that can happen on the negotiation, and so much of these little things I'm not allowed to do unless I represent the highest level.
Yep.
So that's a big issue. Now, from a buyer perspective, let's just switch hats. And let's say you and Courtney deciding you're going to go buy a new house. We're moving to the beach.
Yep.
And you're like, that's it.
He's literally made me hate my house now. Like, he keeps planting these seeds, and then every time I go home and it's not at the beach, I'm upset. And so it's gradually like taking its toll.
Absolutely should be. I'm just enlightening you along the way. So, but here's the difference. So if I want to go buy a house, I don't care if it's my first house or my fifth beach house, right? The concept is the same. So you meet an agent, right? Which is an interesting terminology, by the way, because the only time you're really an agent is when you're in an agency relationship, and the only agency relationship is single agency. Yeah. So a transaction broker, I argue that they're not even agents in the process. They're real estate people, but there's no agency relationship set up, and the general public doesn't know that. So you and Courtney are bouncing around on the beach saying, you know what, we'll drive the kids to school. We decide we want to have a better lifestyle and actually enjoy the time on this earth that we have. And you say, screw it, we're going to move. So you start driving around and you meet an agent at lunch when you're having a lunch, and the agent comes up, you're like, hey, we're thinking about moving here, finally upgrading our lifestyle a little bit, and we want to move. And you say, sure, can you show us houses? Yeah, I'm free this afternoon. So you're in that car now with this agent or real estate person. Mm-hmm. You assume that agent, you're talking to that agent.
Yeah.
They're knowing about what you're doing, what you make, what you like, what you're willing to pay, what you can pay, what you don't want to pay, right? You're probably in contact with a mortgage person, yours or his or hers, and they're getting an entire picture of your life, your financial situation, your dreams, your wishes, your wants, your fears, your anxieties, right? Mm-hmm. It's a stressful freaking time to buy a house. So if that agent doesn't mention a word to you, you're now walking around with that agent with limited representation, which if this is one of the largest financial transactions in your life, I personally don't think that that's right. Now, this is, of course, my opinion. Yeah. Other people in the industry might not have the same belief, and that's perfectly fine. It's perfect. Your opinions are yours, right? My personal opinion is that had you known the difference, you would have said, hey, Courtney, I got agent A, I got agent B. Agent A, it's just going to kind of show us some stuff, and they're going to fill out the contract and make sure we get the house. Agent B is going to show us some houses, and when we find it, they're going to beat the crap out of the seller to give us the best job we can with 100% loyalty on our sides in a negotiation, and it's going to cost us the same. If you had that knowledge and conversation, who would you and Courtney pick?
Oh, 100%.
I don't think there's even a question.
No, there's not.
Right? And so that's my issue with what's going on in the commoditization of this real estate industry on a global macro level, is people don't get the difference. And my point, from an agent perspective, step it up and tell people the options. And if you don't have the ability to offer it, I think you should consider having that.
Yeah, here's what's going to happen. It's interesting because I do a lot of our recruiting. I talk to a lot of agents. And when we bring up agency, you usually get one of three responses. One is they get mad, right? Because they've been probably had to defend it in the past and they've lost, and so they get mad. Well, it's just as good, and they'll try and defend it.
Why do some brokers not allow their agents to use it?
Well, because of liability reasons.
Okay.
Right? So they'll get mad, or they have no idea really what I'm talking about. They've read about it or heard about it in real estate school, and then it's gone out of their minds, and they don't think about it anymore. Or they just didn't really fundamentally understand the difference or realize, well,